This video is going to cover the basics of creating charts. It's not going to cover when you should use either a column chart, a pie chart, a bar, a line, or the others that are created. We'll cover that in a future video. What it is going to concentrate on is the basics of creating the charts themselves. So when you do that, there's really going to be basic steps depending on how your data is arranged. So you can come forward where your data is already summed or tallied and you just need to make a quick chart to go with it. Or you have a long list of data that you need to make heads and tails of fairly quickly and then create your tables and your charts to go along with it. In that case, you're going to be using the pivot table. For the moment, we're not going to concentrate on that. That is a future video. So pivot table in the future, but if you have a long list of data, don't feel like you need to count it all yourself. Then we're going to concentrate more on the data already summed and tallied. To me, I know I wrote 4 steps here, but to me there are really 3 steps. Enter it with the proper formatting, make sure you're somewhere clicked within the table, click on Insert tab, choose your preferred chart style, it'll pop up pre-made, and then you'll format it as you need to. So let's go ahead and look at some examples of this. So here we have the education level at XYZ Corporation. They're wanting to show in their annual report what the percentage is of how many people who have graduated at the different levels. So one of the first things that we're going to notice in this, at least I do, is when I look at it here, is this set of data will appear on the graph or chart. And when we look at it, every other one has capitals throughout it. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are looking at the same sort of formatting on it. So now all of those are the same. Now our second column says percentage, but when we look at this, we'll notice that it says 18 there and it's a general. It's not actually a percentage. So one of the things you can do in the data entry piece is I could have typed 18% and 34%. So now when I click here, you'll see that it shows as percentage at the top. That'll make a difference in how Excel uses the data. So that's just good practice on that. The next part is you need to make sure that there aren't any spaces in between or any rows in between. So we have a nice chunk for where our data is located at. But the thing that's going to be here is if I went to insert and graph it right now, I would end up finding that this 100 would be part of it. So I need to go ahead and delete out. So I just clicked on them and clicked delete. I could have deleted the row. There's many ways to do that. So this is now properly formatted to create a chart. So I'm clicked somewhere in it. I click on insert. And then in this case, let's go ahead and make a pie chart. On the pie charts, there you have 2D and you have 3D. 3D does look cool, I will admit that, but the problem with 3D is that it really distorts the percentages as you're tipping it. So to get a true and accurate representation, you really want to use the 2D chart. I tend to use the very simple basic one here for the majority of them. Charts are the best when they're simple and easy to understand without a lot of excess clutter involved with them. So the level of detail we need with this, we can change as we go through. Now, if you'll notice here, we can change the chart type. So if we decide that's not the type we wanted, we could change it. We could switch columns and rows. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for this one. On selecting data, it's selected the right set of data, so we're fine. Then when we look at this next piece, I can change how it looks fairly simply by just clicking all the way through. So I'm going to stop on this one. Why I kind of like this is it does have all of them with the different titles on it here with the percentage that went along with it. So we can make it bigger. When you make it bigger, you'll notice that a few of these move to the inside, and it went ahead and fixed this so graduate degree 4% is not small. If we wanted to do other things, we certainly could do that. We could change it to a different style, but like I said, I'm going to go back to the one where it is there. So that one's basically done. So let's go ahead and create another one. So let's go ahead and go to the tally of the number of students. So let's go ahead and look at this data. So let's say this is the number of students at CMU. Well, number one, I don't have a title over the top of my data here. So I'm going to go right-click, Insert, and I'm going to say that this is the number of students at CMU. It is now listed as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, graduate. We have all of these pieces to go with it. And you do not have to have a title in this top one. Just for good practice, I can say that that's class standing. So we now have that. So if I wanted to print this table, I could actually do that. So we have this piece here. There are no spaces in it, and there are no totals or tallies at the bottom, so it is now ready to insert your different type. So let's say we want to do that as a column chart. So let's do an insert 2D column. Again, there's tons of different options. Simple is good. So in the last one, I showed you how you could use the different styles on the side or on the top to go ahead and choose different options on it. And I kind of like that one just as is. That one's fairly full of clutter. That one has all the titles, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll use this as an example. I'll start with all of them there, and then I'll format it the way I want to. So this number of students at CMU doesn't add anything to it. So if you click on it, you can click Delete. Because this is titled Number of Students at CMU, this access title isn't really needed, so I can go ahead and delete that. Then this already says number of students, so we know what this number is representing, so we can go ahead and delete that. So in this scenario, we now have this clutter of all of these lines. So if I click there, you'll notice what gets highlighted. We don't want that. Let's click the second one down. There, now what's highlighted right now with the dots, I can delete and it takes that out. It certainly makes it much easier to read. If you'll notice on one of the other views though, they didn't have this, but they had numbers at the top. How can we make that happen? So if you go to Chart Layout at the top, and you'll notice on Chart Layout, if I click on, let's say, freshman, you'll notice all of these get bubbled. You'll also notice that series number of student here format selection. So if I wanted to change the coloring of those, so let's go ahead and look at the fill on that one and vary colors by point. So I can close that, and now they're all different colors. It doesn't necessarily matter that way. You can insert pieces to it. We're not going to insert anything into it. We have a chart title already. We took away the access titles. We took away the legend already, but we have data labels here, so I can put data labels on the outside end. And we don't need to change our axes or any of those points, so we can keep moving forward on that. So now that I have the titles on the top, I really don't need this piece right here, so I'll click on it and make it go away. Very simple view of number of students at CMU. Now let's say I wanted to do that as a bar chart. Same thing, I can go ahead and click in here. I can go Insert. I can do Bar Chart. And just like the one that we had just done, we can go through the different options to see if there's one that you like. This happens to be a very nice view of it, so let's go ahead and just delete that out of it. Very similar to our other ones. Explains the point very well. Let's go ahead at looking at creating a little more complicated column chart. So on this one, we have a company that has 4 different plants in different parts of the US, and they have 4 different types of products that they produce. So we want to go ahead and we want to graph that and compare them and see maybe what's our top products and at the different plants and which ones speak out more. Now this is an interesting one because I have this product type here that doesn't have anything else to explain on it, but I would almost argue that this product type should go here. So we no longer need column A, so let's delete that one out. The region is just some explanatory information that would be used if I actually printed this table out. So I'm going to go ahead and merge and center this title so it now explains that this is this piece. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So we have clicked within our data. Next step is to go to Insert. Let's go ahead and do a column chart on that one. So again, a 2D column. And you'll see that we end up having one type too many in that one. It did include the region on it. So let's go ahead and just delete the graph. So I clicked somewhere in it and clicked on delete. So let's go ahead and delete out this line. Now we'll do Insert, Column Chart, and we have the pieces correct now. So you can do other things with this. You can certainly play with the formatting of it. This is one where I kind of like this layout on it a little bit. You can take the interior lines off of it if you would like, because you have the totals at the bottom. Or you can undo that, Control Z, if you like them in there. So if you were to publish this chart and you wanted to have it out there, first of all, we're going to have to change our chart title on this one. So this is the XYZ, XYZ airplane models. And this is the number produced. Now, if I want to change this, I can actually click up here once it's highlighted, and we can say number of items produced. Now, this chart's getting kind of small for this, so we might want to actually make it take the whole page. So if I click somewhere in here, if I do this, it highlights this. But if I do in the top corner and right-click, I can say Move Chart to its own worksheet. So this would be something that managements could look at fairly easily and make some decisions off of it. It has all the data on it, and it's fairly easy to compare. Sometimes, though, you'll find that supervisors don't want that level of detail, and the very basic graph was just fine, and we can change the layout to a simplistic view of it that way. So definitely tons of different ways to represent your charts and graphs. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Next one is that we're going to look at is we have two different companies. Now, I could certainly do a fairly easy, I have to put what the title of this is. So let's say this is ABC Oil Corporation, and they have two different locations in North America and in the United Kingdom, and this is their annual report. So this is going to be the number of barrels sold per day. Okay. So what you're going to notice in North America and in the United Kingdom, we have the same set of data here. So I would almost say that when we do this, we want to make sure that we have one chart to represent this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this over here. So we're going to do Control C, and we're going to do Control V, and then we're going to make it large enough to hold both of these then. I'm going to delete that one out. So this is the North America. And then our United Kingdom, I can either Control C and Control V, or I can move it up there. And I'm going to take my title to go with it. I should have copied it, right? We got rid of our original set of data. So in the process of this, I'm going to go ahead and make those as titles. So we have three different charts here now. So we now have them each separately, which you could do bar charts off of these and compare the two bar charts. So we could do Insert, Bar Charts, and change the formatting on that one to be this. And we can do the same thing for the Insert, Bar Charts, and change the formatting to there. And of course, we'd probably want to make this a number of barrels sold per day at the top, and we'd probably want to add United Kingdom to that. So let's go ahead and do that. So this was 93.84. So this is the US one. This is North America. So let's go to Layout. Let's go to Chart Title. Let's do Above Chart. So the title of this is not number of barrels sold per day. The title of this is North America 2007. The title of this one, so insert title above chart, is United Kingdom 2007. Now we can do other things to format it. The blue legend on here actually makes sense because it describes what it is. So I'm going to move these down over here. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens if you wanted to graph those together. Well, now we've made it so that you can graph them together. And so if we do Insert, Column Chart, and it went ahead and created the column chart for us. So we could go ahead and put in that style if we wanted. Obviously, we need to insert a title above that. So this is the number of barrels sold per day. So notice how those differ. So on this one in the title we had North America with a number of barrels. In this one we have number of barrels sold per day by the various types of locations. Then the last one that we're going to work on is a line chart. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my line chart here. So on a line chart, one of the things that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that it's in the right format. Well, to be in the right format, we need to have this flip-flopped. So we have year going down and profit going down. If I were to graph this, you would not get what you were looking for. So in this scenario, you can use a copy-paste feature. So if I do Control-C and I do paste special, so I right-clicked to get that on here. So I'm going to do paste special. There's an option to be able to transpose these. So we're going to transpose them. So without having to retype everything, I now have it in a format that I can do a line chart on. So I'm going to go Insert. I'm going to do a line chart. Let's go ahead and use the one without the dots. And if you'll notice on that one, it actually created a line for both the year and the profit. So obviously when we do this, this type of line chart is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to delete that out. So let's go ahead and highlight this section of it and do Insert, Line Chart. Okay, so we want to go ahead and add the numbers on the very bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Select Data. This is our set of data here, so we're going to edit the label range on it. So we now added labels to the bottom of it. Be sure and click on OK. If you hit cancel, your work will go away. So we have our charts, and we can go ahead and add our titles on the top and other pieces as we see fit. This Series 1 obviously doesn't make a lot of sense to it, so if we want to do layout, chart title above the top of the chart, and this is our profit. Okay, this is our profit over time. There are other charts and graphs. We're going to stop there though, and there'll be future videos on how to select which type of chart to go with the data you're going with and on pivot tables.